that is awesome. I love it. Hey everyone, my name is Dan Shimolinski. People like to call me Shimmy, and you can too. I am a bassist, sound designer, and composer living in Los Angeles, and we are back checking out another addition to the Hybrid Cinema series. This is Motion Effects. I think with all libraries within a series for Soundpaint, it's important to view them in context. And if we were to draw a Venn diagram of all of the Hybrid Cinema series libraries we've looked at thus far, you'd surely find some overlap, right? Booms and hits might be kind of overlapping with, say, hits and impacts. Ear candy and strums might have some overlap with analog modular percussion. They each kind of really specialize in their own specific thing, but definitely have some cross-pollination happening. But the common element to all of the libraries we've looked at is motion. I've talked about it a lot in my demos. The emphasis on stereo image, motion, and mapping is in all of these libraries and is such a key tool to really mapping your sounds to the images that the viewer is watching on the screen. And so in a sense, motion effects is in the very center of that Venn diagram. And in it, we get some really cool, very specialized, but very useful tools to explore what a motion effect sounds like. As always, we will look at the parts that you get with motion effects, head over to the program section to see the stuff in action, and who knows, maybe we'll make something from scratch. So let's get started. Now in motion effects, we get 4 parts here, and it's not really what I would consider to be like bread and butter type parts. It's not every day that you need electricity sounds or racetrack sounds, but they are 4 great illustrations of the importance put on the stereo image, the motion aspect to so many hybrid cinema libraries that we've checked out thus far. I'm gonna start with electricity, and it is just as it sounds. We are dealing with static electricity kind of sounds, gently or maybe not so gently flossing the stereo image, flossing the viewer's ears. There's a lot of crackles and pops in here, and I hope the budding sound designer in you gets excited about all the possibilities as I play this part down for you. So this is electricity. So various lengths, various amounts of rhythmic aspects, various amounts of low-end, high-end information. It's just a totally comprehensive electric sound part. Very cool. So something to think about when you're listening to that is, can I use this in morph? Can I use this as an envelope to engulf another sound? Maybe map another sound to that kind of staggered stereo image feel. Some of these are as much of a stereo image mapper as it is its own individual sound effect, if that makes sense. And then I am definitely a car guy, so you know this is my personal favorite. This is called Racetrack, and it involves actual samples from a vintage race car race, I believe. So start your engines and let's check it out. That is too cool. Some of those are definitely tonal. Like you could definitely use one of those to supplement, kind of grunge up maybe a synth-based tone or some kind of sub-hit. You know, it could definitely add some texture to an already existing low kind of rumble sound. That's just a great bag of tricks to have in your arsenal for sure. Moving on to separators, which is a little different than it sounds. When I first saw this part, I thought, oh, maybe this is like a very jarring kind of, quick sound to separate two elements. Not so. This is actually the personal favorite of Trolls, who informed me that it's actually two pitches separating away from each other, moving away from each other. So as we hop into these, be sure to try and track the pitches with your visual ear. So cool. One going down, one going up. Very, very cool. So on that Venn diagram, definitely more towards the upper and riser side of things, but just a little more attention on the stereo image and actually tracking the motion of the pitches that are rising or falling. And finally, we have wah accelerators. And the best way I can describe this to you is to just basically go wow, 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 wow. That's all I got for you. It is the slow speeding up of either filtering, pitch, volume, just kind of building a bit of a riser, but using the stereo image motion to kind of accentuate each wah. So almost like wah, wah, wah. Try and pick that up with your ear as I play this down. Man, that almost has like 360-degree motion to it, doesn't it? I don't know, maybe I'm being optimistic, but that sounds like I'm standing in the center of something that's just getting faster and faster around me. Oh, I like that one. That's getting kind of modulated and almost a little bit of the electric effect in there as well. I would say the key differentiator here from, say, uppers and risers is it does kind of plateau towards the end. It's not a straight rise up. And again, just like there's just so many elements. If you can visually pick out the elements and where they sit in your stereo field with your ears, that's kind of the key. Yeah, like on some of these, I can just like visually kind of picture maybe 3 or 4 elements just rotating and rotating and moving at slightly different orbit speeds. It's very, very cool, very useful. So that's a very quick look at the parts that you get with motion effects. Let's head over to the program section to see this stuff in action. You get 35 programs with motion effects. I've designed about 10 of them myself. And you're gonna notice that some really lean into the intention of the parts that they're utilizing, and some just kind of milk that stereo motion to make basic sounds more interesting. I'll start with one of those just to give you kind of an idea of what I'm talking about. I created this program called Complex Bass, and it's a bass sound. It's just a straight ahead bass sound. I used one note stretch on both and really just tried to create a super rich bass that just kind of milks the stereo image. So forgive me for starting with something completely opposite of the library's intention, but I just want to show you that good stereo imaging can be used to create some really, really interesting sounds that maybe on the surface or in utility are simple, but are going to absolutely juice up your mix. So here's Complex Bass. Yes, I woke up my neighbors. So yeah, that is basically what I'm going for, is just a juicy, beefy bass sound that when you hold it, it just gets to that and just goes crazy. So a sound you can play as a basic or not so basic bass that just really evolves into this stereo image thing. Nothing gets me revved up like a juicy bass line to start out one of my demos. But let's reel it in, Let's check out Aliens. Yes, so the wonderful world of effects, because when you take something like an accelerator, just one single note of one single part, one note stretch, you can run that through distortion, delay, a nice shimmer reverb, and open up a filter using the mod wheel. Gives you a really dynamic part. Very, very cool for crescendos and just accentuating something that's happening. Here's one I made called Complex Riser. So just a little bit of kind of a small, subtle riser, but a lot of elements to it. I mapped the mod wheel to the master pitch of the whole part here, but it's reverse behavior. So when I raise it, it kind of warps down, which is a really, really cool thing to mesh with stuff that's moving left and right. Gives it kind of a slowing down tape effect. This one's called Creatures. Very nice. So yet again, using one note stretch. Electricity is kind of giving us that little sizzle, I'm sure. Let's check it out. Yeah, almost like a metallic quality to it. Tuning it down an octave, I'm sure, is helping that out. And then the Separators giving us the pitch motion, which through a gate gives you that kind of stutter effect. Very useful, very cool. Went for a really dark one here, as you can see by how much I've detuned these parts, but this is called Dark Abyss. Yeah. This next one is called Doom. It's one of my favorites. It involves 3 layers of separators, so we're going to hear a lot of pitch action here. We have a slow LFO to the panning of part 3 as if there wasn't enough stereo image information already. And a mod wheel which does this. So, sure to be interesting. I want to try it starting at the top now. Almost like a high pass effect. That is super, super cool. This one's called Dropper, and yet again we have some mod wheel to the frequency and gain of a band in the EQ. So let's see what it does. Yeah, so we're using 1-note stretch here, so we have a little bit of time control, a little bit of timbre control, just based on where we play it on the keyboard, and then having that really awesome EQ band kind of sweeping gives you so much dynamic control. Here's one utilizing morph called Harsh Winds, and we basically have an accelerator sound going into the Racetrack sound, a perfect 50-50 split going into a analog filter, which is just wide open, and we don't have CC control, so you can be the judge of where you'd like to place that. And just a smidge, a very small amount of shimmer reverb. Very cool. And you know me, I always love to go the opposite direction and just see what happens. So maybe the timbre and grit of the Racetrack sound and the accelerator chopping up the sound for us there. Very cool. Here's one I did called Huge Rise, and we have the 10-band EQ here, giving us a little bit of a dance if we want to just kind of accentuate the super lows and the super highs. Also widening our stereo image. And this is a 3-part program here. 2 separators, 1 accelerator. I find the separators and the accelerators go together really, really nicely because you get pitch action and you get kind of a filtering, speeding up kind of thing happening as well. So this is called Huge Rise. And the mod wheel actually brings in an LFO to the stereo field here. I thought it was just a mount, but yes, you get an LFO on the width of the stereo image. And that's just a very simple way to just kind of get more of a throbbing action happening with your just master instrument. This one is called Polyrhythm, and it involves 2 Racetrack parts going into a grain reverb post-chorus. So that's kind of where the polyrhythm is going to come from here. Don't sleep on the grain reverb. This is one of my favorite tools, especially when you're getting into kind of this sort of glitchy sound design territory here. Let's check it out. Man, that is awesome. Super, super cool. And what happens when you take 3 separator layers and put a relatively fast but simple gate on it? You get something like this. This is Robo Gators. Wow, so much change from key to key, and I totally neglected that there is velocity information in our ARP on that one. Super sweet. And finally, I will leave you with another one of mine. This is called Suspense Through Motion, and it is one of the very first programs I ever designed for Soundpaint. I had access to this library in the beta testing days, and it was one of my favorite programs then, and still remains one of my favorite programs now. 2 LFOs to panning of each part, and CCs affecting some fun stuff like the frequency of the LFOs and the wet-dry control of the Bucket Brigade delay. This is Suspense Through Motion. Super low. Suspense Through Motion. So that's a very quick look at the programs that you get in Motion Effects. And now I want to make something from scratch, and if you'll just indulge me for a second here, I want to start by trying what I mentioned in the very beginning of this video and seeing where it takes us. I want to grab one of these electricity notes and see if I can use it with morph to kind of envelope another sound. Because I think it is by far the most erratic and choppy of these motion effect parts, and could perhaps be a really cool mapping tool for another timbre. Let me find a note that makes sense here. I don't know if this is this way or this way for you, but it's that way for me. I'm gonna one note same that. And let me go ahead and find that kind of bass-ish sound from Racetrack that I love so much. It might as well be like a brass sound, right? Got a little bit of a pitch envelope kind of aspect to it. So let me do one note stretch for that. And I'm gonna try morph and see where it gets us. I like that. Just try the other direction because why not? Woo! Almost kind of a noise hit thing, but definitely going for this. Yeah. Cool. So we've got this part down here. And then we've got this part up here. So part 3 kind of emerges out of this little stuff that's happening here. And I wonder if we could find a separator that's maybe on the tamer side. So maybe not a ton of layers, maybe not a ton of pitch motion. Definitely going for kind of like a complex bass sound. Let's see what we can find. Man, stuff is moving like right away. That'd be kind of cool if we tuned it to the starting note. Oh yeah, here we go. Oh, that's sick. So this is really, really cool. So, I'm just messing around here, but we're already arriving at something super, super dope. So just a quick recap. So we have kind of this electricity sound enveloping our Racetrack bass tone. So we get the kind of grisly brow sound, but it's going through this kind of choppy, glitchy electric sound. Then we have part 3, which is an accelerator kind of emerging out of this soup. A little loud. Don't worry, I'll put a compressor on it. Killing. And then we have part 4, which is emerging out of that sound. And it's a separator, so we have all these pitch things happening, but because it's going down, it's actually separating from part 3 as well. Oh, I love it. Let's get some nice snappy envelopes on everything so that the minute I pull my hand off that key, it just stops dead. Throw a compressor on it. Make it nice and fluffy. And then what reverb do we do? I think any would work here. Let's try modern digital. I haven't done that one in a while. Let's see what long reflective sound. Nice. Too long, but nice. And then I'm feeling adventurous. Let's do a post effects EQ. I want even more bass. Maybe cut some of that. Oh no, that's kind of nice actually. All right, I'm gonna give a little bump to that mid-range, which I normally cut, but it's kind of reflecting. It's getting that kind of mid-range sound. But I'm gonna make the Q a little bit smaller so it's not bringing up that stuff there. And then, just because I'm concerned, what is in here? It's actually all kind of nice. That would be a nice frequency to kind of raise up on the mod wheel. Even more, honestly. We're getting somewhere. Normally I have a very specific order. I would typically have EQ before any reverbs and anything like distortion before reverb. But I'm feeling gutsy. I've got a EQ after the reverb, and let's just try a distortion after the reverb as well. Modern digital, give it a little boost and map just a touch of distortion to our mod wheel. See how this sounds. So what we're listening to there, I believe, are you hearing that like crunch, crunch, that kind of thing? I think that is the Racetrack bass sound going into our electricity envelope, really getting brought out by the distortion. That is amazing. So there you go. That was a very, very haphazard. I was like, oh, let's just see what this morph thing sounds like that I was talking about earlier. Into a sound I could have never dreamed of, but is totally badass and totally fits the library. Done. That's where I'm stopping for today. Soundpaint is about specializing, and as I said, there always is some overlap between libraries. And what a specific and interesting take on the thing that is totally laced through all of these Hybrid Cinema Series libraries. 4 very unique and specific tools that, as we just saw, can really be used to create stuff that is totally organic, totally impactful, and most of all, original. As I said, I can see all of these sounds in my eyes, my ear eyes, if you will, when I hear them. Electricity, I can see the arcs of the electricity sparks kind of jumping from maybe one pole to another. I can see the beefy kind of vintage race car just ripping by on the racetrack. I can watch as the pitches separate from one another. And I feel like I am standing in the epicenter of an object just whipping faster and faster and faster around me in a circle. It's very cool. It's a lovely homage to one of the core tenets of sound design in Soundpaint. And if you couldn't tell by my hooting and hollering and smiling, it is a very, very fun one to work with. So definitely pick this one up if you're interested in kind of exploring motion effects like this, or if you're hearing the types of sounds that's just gonna totally nail whatever score you're working on. Anyway, that's all I have for you today. As always, thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. This is Shimmy, signing out. Take care.